Good evening, everybody. Welcome aboard the boat. That's Bob's On-Air Tech Talk with Tech Dissected and guests. I'm your host and your captain, Alvie, and welcome aboard the boat. I'm really excited that you guys are here. Thank you so much for tuning in live. We've got special guest, Mr. Paul Reioux tonight, Kernel developer, and as usual, Chuck, Fred, Joe, and Tony. We do this every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Welcome aboard the boat. All right, welcome back, guys. Once again, my name is Alvie. I'm the captain of the boat. Welcome aboard. We've got a fantastic evening, a bunch of stuff going on. And just to remind everybody, this is a live event, but you can stream this later throughout the week. Links will be in the description. We'll also share this all over the place as well. Thanks so much. We've got a moto skip to give away and also extra stuff. I'll explain that here in just a bit. We'll be giving away some of Paul Reioux' apps in a very special way. So be tuned for that. Be special for that, or especially tuned in for that. Remind everybody the Q&A is live. So at the bottom of the event page, you can click the Q&A and then ask your questions for Paul Reioux and, of course, any of the guys here. Bunch of stuff to go through, bunch of stuff to talk about. So let's introduce really quick. We've got my really good friend, bringing the ones and zeros, Chuck Haines, back from the dead, Fred, Joe from Mobile Cup of Joe, my co-host, Tony, as usual, and then our very special guest, Paul Reioux. Let me unmute everybody's mic. Everybody say hey real quick.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Paul, bunch of thanks. Thanks for coming on board the boat, and we'll have a bunch of questions, I'm sure, for everybody here in just a bit. So let's go ahead and get started. Reminder, we're giving away a moto skip, and well, let me go ahead and tell you how we're going to do this. It's difficult to give away apps in the Google Play Store. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to give away a $10 Google Play gift card, which will cover just about every app that Paul's got. So please do him a favor and buy at least one, if not all of his apps with your Google Play gift card if you win. But we are giving away a Moto Skip. Joe's got that in hand right there, if you can show that, Joe. There's the Moto Skip in hand. And also we'll send you a $10 gift card to the Google Play Store that you can use to buy Paul's apps. Paul's also known, most of you guys know him as Fo123, a very avid, very awesome, very active kernel developer. So we're really excited to have him on board. And Paul, as we're talking about stuff in here, just feel free to chime on in. But we've got stuff going on this week, a bunch of stuff. You may or may not have noticed there was an Apple announcement. So Chuck and Fred, why don't you share a little bit about what happened in the world of Apple this week?
What happened in the world of Apple? Well, besides them botching the launch of the iPhone, which I'll go into here in a little bit, Apple announced a few things. Kind of highly anticipated and expected was, of course, the Apple Watch, not the iWatch, the Apple Watch. Kind of different take on the watch from what Android Wear is. There seems to be more apps actually running on the watch. It's a little bit bigger than the Android Wear, maybe a little bit flashier, some people might think. It's got this little knob like a traditional watch that you actually use to kind of maneuver around. Got a few what I would consider kind of gimmicks, you know, drawing on it and sending it to someone else that's close by you, sending your heartbeat to someone else. I think Apple was kind of stretching it a little bit with this watch announcement. I think that some of the things just seemed extremely gimmicky that they announced. And, of course, it's not available until next year, and it's going to retail at $349. which you're not really getting a whole lot for $349. One thing that was absent from the announcement with the watch was battery life. Not a mention on battery life. Is it going to get 6 hours? Is it going to get a day? Is it going to get nothing? I know it's all rumor, but rumor is Apple has been having as much issues with battery life as all the Android manufacturers of watches have, and probably the reason that they're not releasing it now and they're releasing it next year is they're hoping for some reason that maybe they can up their battery life. In addition to that, we got the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. Pretty much like we heard from all the rumors, the iPhone 6 is a 4.7 inch, and then the iPhone 6 Plus is a 5.5 inch. One of the cool things I thought, at least, the iPhone 6, in my opinion, kind of, just an incremental upgrade from the iPhone 5 or 5S. I think the iPhone 6 Plus had a few more neat things to it. I think their camera and their OIS, the optical image stabilization that they put into the iPhone 6 Plus, is kind of cool. Yes, I know some Android phones have had it for a while. I can hear the Android fanboy screaming at me now that, hey, Android's had it for a while. Yes, I know. But I think that it's hard to argue the fact that Apple has the best cameras when it comes to mobile devices. I think that's pretty generally accepted. And so this should, I would assume, make their cameras even better. From what it looked like in the technology. Fred, what was your take on the whole thing?
Well, you kind of give a good overview here, but and then you kind of touched on what I think is one of the points that's got everybody buzzing, both on Tech Dissected and other places as well, which is that we're looking at a new iPhone, the long-awaited iPhone, which indeed does have specs similar to what we've seen in the Android world for quite some time. No real stellar improvements over that, which kind of gives one thought. The 5.5 inch, the 6 Plus, is certainly a high-powered, cutting-edge kind of machine. But as far as the basic iPhone 6, spec-wise, hardware-wise, we're kind of looking at, kind of old hat for Android world where things turn over every 3 to 6 months or so. Interesting conversation came up in where I work at my job. We've got a few of us that are Android users. There's one diehard iPhone guy, and I actually showed him excuse me, Freudian slip there. I showed him Andrew's kind of ranting iPhone fanboy disappointment rant on Tech Dissected, and his response to me was, specs mean nothing to me. It's the UX and UI that I love. Apple is going to sell regardless of what they put inside the box. We all know that. The fact that iOS seems to be now catching up as well to features that have been in Android is also a great sign. It's more competition. It's pushing things to a higher level. One thing that I do want to touch on a little bit is the introduction of NFC to Apple and iOS. And again, we've had it on Android since 2011, I guess. Ice Cream Sandwich, I think, is when we first started seeing NFC. But other than a couple of some earpieces and some nearby devices that we can use, there hasn't been too much in the way of NFC. But Apple put it out there, and by yesterday, we're starting to see banks who are going to be accepting Apple Pay by NFC, which again gives one thought. And the comment that I got from someone on this was that, hey, the technology may have been there, but big banks and so on wait for Apple to give their seal of approval before they'll become an adopter of the technology. And hating to admit it, but it kind of seems like that's the truth. The technology was there for NFC payments. We didn't see anybody like Wells Fargo Bank jump on it. in the last 3 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the big thing for me. Like, okay, fine, we've had it for 6 years on Android, whatever. Apple still is mainstream for a lot of people, and if Apple does something, then a lot of people are going to get behind it, like it or not. So with Apple pushing NFC payments, especially, something else that I hadn't heard many people talk about, especially on the wearable Apple Watch, it can sense whether you tap or press hard.
Okay, yes. And I actually got to say, that was probably one of the only things that was wow about the watch.
Agreed.
Is to be able to detect the difference between a tap and a press is kind of cool. I want to touch on the spec thing real quick. I guess you could call me an Android fanboy. I don't know. I've got Android phones, but I've got an iPad, and of course I'm on a MacBook Pro here. So I kind of use all worlds. So I kind of like to be subjective, I think. And I'll be honest with you, specs don't mean anything to me either. And I know Paul maybe will show us his G2 later on here, and might agree with me that I don't think specs mean everything, because I think he told me that one of his favorite phones was the original Moto G. Which spec-wise in the Android world was crap, comparatively speaking. So, I think from the Apple perspective, why introduce more powerful hardware if you don't need it? iOS 8 runs great on the hardware that they have. So why put more powerful hardware in there? Because then you got to deal with battery constraints. You've got to deal with space constraints. A bigger, powerful. I mean, let's look at the LG G3 for example. Yeah, they cram this really, really awesome, powerful display, but battery life is crap on that phone. It's great. You're first to market. You've got this really awesome display, but is it really practical for anything? I mean, if I were to look at something like the S5 and the G3, I'd probably go with the S5 screen, even though it's lower resolution, because to me it looks better. And of course, battery life is better on the S5. So I think that the spec-wise, I was going to get an iPhone. I'm not going to now, but I was going to get one.
Why not?
Why am I not going to get one? Well, I'm glad you asked, Alvie. So Apple decided, for whatever reason, to open up pre-orders at 12:01 a.m. This morning Pacific time. Which is 2 a.m. here at Central Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. I was actually up at 2 a.m., sitting down at my computer. I had my computer open to both the Apple website and the Verizon website. 2:01 rolled around. Apple Store was still down. Verizon site, I could click the pre-order button, and then it would just keep erroring out. Long story short, after trying like 4 different computers, 20 different browsers, and trying for an hour, I was not able to pre-order an iPhone on Verizon or Apple's website. The Apple website, the store never came up for me. The Verizon site constantly errored out, and by the time I was actually able to see the iPhones, they were already back-ordered to 10/19. And who wants to wait that long? So I've decided that
Android fanboys.
Yeah. So good job, Apple. You actually told me when I could buy the device, but bad job, Apple, because you didn't actually let me buy the device. So.
I have 2 things to add to this. One, because Chuck, you and I are always going back and forth about the specs of what they do or do not mean. My only observations, yes, Apple. I've never used an iPhone that I thought, man, this just doesn't work well. Not one time have I ever done that. But if they did try a little bit harder and putting, a little bit higher end specs in, actually give the person what they're paying for spec-wise, they may have iPhone 4s running iOS 8 and running it well. Whereas right now you've got iPhone 4s that are really struggling to run iOS 7 because they've made advancements. So if they did focus on the specs a little bit more, like that 1 gig of RAM is going to bite them when they make a real advancement in the operating system. That's just my opinion.
But
that completely goes against their whole business philosophy, though.
Well,
1-year turnovers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about to say. Is why when now those who have iPhones 4s now they have to buy the new iPhones.
And
But
most
the
of them
other-
are having to do so.
Yeah. The other thing I have to notice about the whole announcement is, did anybody else feel like when the guy who was demonstrating the watch got the heartbeat from his friend that this is like a 21st century obscene phone call? Because that's exactly what I found. I'm like, why is your male friend sending you his heartbeat? Like, that is the most offsetting, off-putting thing I think I've ever heard.
I thought the whole heartbeat drawing
Medical experiments.
bizarre. It just
Exactly.
bizarre across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just want to Oh, you can go ahead, Tony.
oh no, go ahead. It's nothing.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, because I didn't I didn't watch the live stream for the event, but I was like just reading the articles afterwards, and I know the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus are probably the biggest because the iPhone's Apple's biggest product or one of their biggest products, but with the Apple Watch, I'm kind of more interested in that because the watch itself, I'm not really too keen on because I'm all for the circular displays and I'm planning to get the Moto 360 soon. I don't want to go back to a square display because that's so, Q2 of 2014. But I'm curious to see, though, because before the iPhone, smartphones existed, but they weren't really popular and didn't really get their big kickoff until the iPhone came out. And then tablets existed before the iPad, but they didn't really kick off until the iPad was released. So we have smartwatches now. We've got the Pebble Steel, the Android Wear, the Samsung Gear Live, the LG G Watch, the G Watch R, the Moto 360, and there's a lot out there, but they haven't really gotten that big yet until the Apple Watch, supposedly, because I'll go out in public with my Gear Live and I'll have people say, oh, is that the new Samsung watch or something? So smartwatches are slowly coming into the consumer market because in the tech field, it seems like such an obvious product. Like we talk about smartwatches every day, but then I'll go out to the supermarket or something and people ask questions about the watch because smartwatches still aren't super relevant with the normal consumer base. So
yeah, I mean, because the same thing happened with me. They announced everything, Tuesday? Wasn't that when the Apple announcement was?
I think Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, yeah.
Either Tuesday or Wednesday, because Wednesday night at church I had my Pebble on, the original G1 Pebble. And the first thing, I mean, walking in the door, oh, did you get the new Apple Watch? Like, I mean, they don't know that it's not
Right.
Apple, but it's like already in the mindset of people that have no idea that there's even a wearable. So, I mean,
Well,
good that they're bringing this stuff out, and great that it's not anything compared to Androids, because, like, we're superior. No, I'm kidding. But, I mean, I mean, really seriously, great that it's coming out because it brings it to the forefront. Same thing with the payment system.
It's
Exactly.
amazing to me how many people think it was over a month. So how long's Gear Live been out? 2 months now, maybe.
Yeah, since June or somewhere
Okay,
around there.
so I got the Gear Live like a week after I/O. Okay, and I walked into the mechanic, and the lady there was like, "Oh, is that one of the new Apple iWatches?" Apple hasn't even announced it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah, that actually, well, it didn't happen to me that early, but today I was in my economics class at school, and I'm sitting there, and my teacher comes around, and he sees my watch, he's like, "Oh, is that the new Apple iWatch?" So it's just cool, interesting to see that the watch has just been announced, and even like with Chuck, even before it was announced, the Apple brand is so familiar with the normal consumer base. So like I said, the watch itself, I'm not that interested in because of the design, and for me, that interface just looks horrible with all those super small icons, even with that digital crown or whatever it is. Those, I don't want to go into that right now, but
7,000 pictures on that screen.
yeah, because I'm gonna show my albums and my vacation trips to people on a 1.6-inch display. Future.
The funny
But-
thing, though, Google Glass Explorers got the same thing. It's when Google Glass Explorers started wearing them. I don't know how many Explorers posts I read after the initial release of Google Glass that said they were sitting at a coffee shop and someone literally came up to them and asked, "Oh, are those the new Apple glasses?" Like, Apple has not even demonstrated the legit of. It's true. I mean, you just assume because you see something and it was probably white. I mean, that's the only thing I'm guessing. It was white, and they just assumed, oh, that's white. That must be made by Apple.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll argue market share for Android, but Apple is still it for
Yeah.
more than 30% of consumers, even though that's the 30% market share thing.
And
All right, let's move on. We could talk Apple and bash Apple all day long. Joe, let's talk about another non-Android product. You got a mini review for us. I know last week you showed us a quick thing on the Fire phone. So give us your thoughts and impressions after a week with the device.
Yeah, so actually it is an Android phone, but it's not present anywhere on it. So I've got the Amazon Fire Phone here, and I've had this for about a week now. And if you don't know, with the Fire Phone, this is Amazon's first smartphone they've released. And there's two really big features they're pushing with it. One of those is dynamic perspective, and the second is Firefly. So I touched on these a little bit in the BOATT show last week. And dynamic perspective is essentially this kind of 3D view for the software that Amazon created. So I don't know if you can see in the camera right now, but there are cameras in every corner of the device, and when you're looking at it, this will track your face and represent a 3D image on the screen. And after a week of having the device and using it, it is cool because, let me see if I can get it to show up on the camera. On the lock screens and stuff, I don't even know if that's showing up right now. It'll move and kind of give you a perspective and a depth of field on it, so it's not like 3D popping out of the screen, but it's more of just depth of field stuff. And that's present through all the OS, and it is fun to look at, but after a while, it does seem really gimmicky, and I'm wondering if this is actually hindering the performance of it, because there's a Snapdragon 800 in here, and I think 2 gigs of RAM. But when you boot this phone up, and I did this every day this week when I turned the phone on in the morning, it would take at least 2 or 3 minutes for it to be up to speed, because it would be, you would swipe the screen for a new application, and it would just stay there and stutter terribly. And this would go on for 2 or 3 minutes. So if dynamic perspective is affecting it this much to where it's actually hindering performance of the device, it kind of takes away the whole thing, because yes, it is cool, but there isn't really any functionality you're adding to it. And if you're just putting a big gimmick on the phone and it's taking out the performance, then it's kind of a lose-lose there.
Is that something you can turn off?
That's what I was looking through the settings. I think there is. I've heard people say there is, but I haven't been able to find it yet. So yeah, I think somewhere in there is, but the settings are so convoluted, I haven't been able to see it yet.
Fair enough.
Second thing is the Firefly, which is just you open it up and you can launch it either via the app icon or from the camera button here on the side by holding it down. And supposedly with Firefly, you can scan any product or any logo or any audio track, and it'll show up to you on Amazon and let you purchase this, which is a great marketing tool for Amazon because you're taking pictures of something you see in the store and you're going to buy it on Amazon. So it is a great marketing tool, but in my time with Firefly, I bought this thermos water bottle here on Amazon. I bought these Logitech speakers. I scanned the box and the logos, and I scanned my umbrella light over there. I bought that off Amazon, and it wasn't able to pick up any of those. And I tried making it so that was the only thing in the range of the viewfinder, and it's just nothing. Now, audio and TV stuff, it picks up fine, but a cool feature, again, and it's the big thing, but it just doesn't seem implemented that great into the device. Normal day-to-day use for the phone, aside from the big standout features, I've noticed that it is fairly smooth. It's not going to blow your mind because you do have the 2 gigs of RAM, which I'm spoiled by the 3 gigs, the OnePlus One, so it does. I do kind of see a difference in speed and performance there. You have a Snap 800, so you've got a pretty fast processor in there. 720p display, which does look fine. I would have liked to see 1080p, but on a 4.7-inch screen, 720p does work pretty good. And another interesting thing with it is that it is technically based off of Android, but it's running Amazon's Fire OS. So you can see right here, this is, let me turn that brightness down because that's destroying it. You can see right here, the interface is completely different from stock Android. Essentially at the top, you have your carousel of applications you've used most recently, and these will just pop up in there in the order that you've used them. And one interesting thing is that when you have an application here, let me see if I can get it to show up. Below it, it'll actually present information relevant to the application. So, for example, the web browser here, it has links to websites I viewed recently. If I go to Ricky Tikki Tavi, the book, it'll show me recommendations for books below it. So stuff like that is cool, but it just feels too limited to me as an OS because I'm kind of used to that customization off Android or CyanogenMod or something. But I will say it is a very simple user interface once you get the hang of it. And I was actually talking with Chuck before we went live. Another feature in here that Amazon touts a bit, but not as much as Firefly or Dynamic Perspective, is Mayday, which they first introduced on, I believe it was the Kindle Fire HD or HDX. And it's essentially you go to the Mayday thing, and if you have a question with your phone, you can pop it up and you'll get a live representative from Amazon. They can take full control of your phone or tablet and kind of guide you through if you have problems with it. So I was thinking about that, and I don't think Amazon is really marketing this phone to that market, But I think this would be perfect for senior citizens or older people who do want a smartphone, but they don't want something like Android where it's super complicated to use, because the software and the interface is extremely easy to get used to, and having that instant access to a representative that knows what they're talking about really does add a nice feature to this phone. So again, I don't think Amazon was really kind of marketing the phone towards that purpose or to that demographic, but just in my experience, what I've been seeing with the phone, I think it'd be perfect for something like that. So
Interesting.
to kind of just like wrap it up, it's not the worst phone I've used. Personally, I wouldn't get it just because it's not being made for me. If you're super invested in the Amazon ecosystem, if you're a Prime subscriber, if you stream Amazon Instant Video all the time, if you read the Kindle ebooks constantly, if you are always purchasing on Amazon and want something that makes it fun and easy to spend your money on Amazon products, it really is a good phone because, like I said, I'm a Prime subscriber, so I have been liking being able to watch instant video on the Fire Phone because you really can't do that on any mobile device right now. So if you're super, super heavily invested in the ecosystem, this would not be a bad phone for looking into, but if you're in the Google apps or if you're in Microsoft, you're with Apple's software, it really isn't that great of a thing because I use Gmail on a daily basis, I use Hangouts on a daily basis, and I know Tony had the same experience when he was using the Blue Win HD and the Blue Win Junior. When you rely on services, so like Hangouts or Gmail for something constantly every day and not having it on a phone, it really does hinder the usability for it. So, yeah, my review, if you're into Amazon or if you want a phone where you can have instant access to a representative, if you are a grandson or a granddaughter or a kid and your parent or grandparent wants a smartphone and they are not that great with technology, get this phone because Amazon reps will be able to deal with their questions and you will not have to. So
nice plug though. Seriously, I like that. That's you make a good point for it. You let them deal with it so you don't have to, right?
Exactly.
All right, so let me remind you before we go into our discussions with Fo123 here. The Q&A is open, so if you've got a question for Fo or for any of us, feel free to go ahead and put your question in the Q&A. Also, if you want to win this Moto Skip that Joe's got here or the Google Play gift card, that you can go ahead and purchase Paul's apps with. Just put your name that you want to be entered in to win. We will draw that at the end, and yes, you need to be present to win. So, without further ado,
Hey,
Tony,
before you go there, and
yes.
the Google Play card, we can do international. I know we have at least one international person watching, so feel free. We can do international on the Play card.
Excellent. All right, Tony, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, please?
Yeah, we got Paul Reioux with us today, better known as Fo123. I know I've enjoyed his kernels, and most of our modders out there in the audience, you've probably used one of his kernels at some point or another. So we're very excited to have him on the show with us today. Paul, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank everyone on the show for inviting me to come onto the show, and then I also want to thank all the users of my kernel and app, for supporting me over the years. I really appreciate, especially, all the kind reviews and all the comments and all the kind emails that users have sent me over the years. Thanking me for creating the kernels, and to me it's a wonderful feeling to be able to create something that people will actually want to download and flash to their phone. To me this is always a big surprise for me. Because I hack kernels because I'm of a embedded software engineer background. I've been working with hardware for about 17, 18 years now. So I know, I've been programming for that time, and I'm always interested in, doing something that I can see the result. And the mobile phone platform is wonderful because I can program something, I can write something, I can create something, and I get that instant gratification. I can see my work and I can see it working. I can, like for example, I wanna change the volume. I can hear the volume gets louder. I want to change the display color gamma. I can see the color change, and so to me it's a really rewarding work. And no, and my primary reason for doing this is, just for fun. I like to learn different things, and if you follow me for over the years, you'll notice that I tend to buy different platform, different kind of device, so that I can I expand my horizon, so I can to see different kind of technology and how they're used in daily life. So I want to thank everyone for supporting me so far.
Well, me, I personally have used your stuff a bunch. And what I like about, especially the apps that you develop, the kernel hacks, like Chuck is a ones and zeros guy. I'm just a normal, like, dumb user. But I'm able to get in there and, like, mess around with some of the stuff. The things that I care about are there and easy to use, but also, like, the people who can go down deep and understand voltages and all that stuff, it's there, too. I like that.
Thank you. So, I guess, you want me to talk about is there a question you're going to ask me? Any questions?
Yeah, well, tell us how'd you kind of get into the
Okay,
Android
yeah.
kernel hacking world?
It all started about 2010. I was using an old what they call feature phones, not non-smartphone, and for a while, and then and you guys were talking about Apple, and it actually changed me. I purchased the first iPhone actually, and once I purchased the iPhone, I realized, wow, this is really magical device. I mean, this smartphone has changed the world, and I start to want to play with the smartphone, but then I realized Apple locked everything down, and that kind of for a while it was okay, it was magical and wonderful, but after a while I started wanting to tinker some things, and I kind of find myself limited a little bit by the walled garden approach that chosen by Apple, and so then I start to trying to see what else is out there. Then my first Android phone was the HTC MyTouch 4G. So when I purchased that, and I said, "Wow, this is great! This looked like an Apple iPhone." I mean, I have to say it. At that time, Apple was leading the way, and everyone else was playing catch up. But when I got the MyTouch 4G, I was looking at it, and I was like, "Wow, I can actually tinker with this." And then I started to go online, trying to figure out what I can do with this device, what else I can do. Then then I discovered CyanogenMod, and then I discovered kernel hacking, and I said, well, I'm not at that time. I'm not really a Java guy. I'm more of an embedded guy. So my world is in C and C++, not the Java side. So for me at the time, I'm not familiar with creating apps for the mobile device. But then I said, well, but I do understand about kernels and device drivers. So then let me just start play with the kernels and so on, and then I go on XDA forum, and I go on other forums to see how to compile a kernel and how to change things, and that's how got me started. I started tinkering with it, and then I thought, wow, I saw all these people post the kernels on the forum, and they share with everyone else, and I thought, oh, this is great. I could do something, and if someone else like what I do, they can also download it. And at that time, it was all for free. I mean, I had no plan of charging anyone for it, and it's open source, and I love open source. And so at the time, I just like here's some of my work, and you can download it, you can try it, and and I'm happy that I'm happy and blessed that users actually enjoyed my work, and I feel very proud of it. That people download my kernel and run it on their device, because at some point you always kind of wonder, it's like is what I release good enough? Is it good? I mean do people like it? I hope I don't break anyone's device. That's always my biggest fear, is to break people's phones. So, and that's and one of the reason I don't do blind builds. And a lot of people ask me, oh, can you support this phone? Can you support that phone? And I said, unless I own the device, I would not want to build a kernel blind, because the potential of failure and bricking is so high that I will feel terrible. Even though I give it for free, that I will still feel very bad if someone bricked their phone because of my kernel. And so I try to buy some of the most popular phones out there, and then I'll try to hack kernels for them. But so that's what I do, and I really enjoyed it. Enjoy hacking kernels and creating, and share with everyone, and I love it.
Well, when it comes to kernels, I know one of the things that people always talk about is, the governors. Kernel governors. There's a whole ton of them out there. So I don't know. Can you maybe give us a little? What is a governor? What's it do? And then I know you've actually got a couple you've kind of custom developed yourself. Maybe give us a little. How do they work? What do they do? Kind of thing.
Yeah, the CPU governors are kind of interesting. You can think of it as kind of a what's a good analogy? The CPU governor allows you to control the behavior of how the CPU clocks are ramped up or ramped down. And one of the most popular ones out there right now are it's on demand, and as the name stated, it's based on the load. So if a load if your app requires a certain amount of horsepower, for example, then the governor will then increase the clock to appropriate level, and then allows you to perform your task hopefully in a smooth fashion. And so that's the basics of a CPU governor. Now, there's another one called the interactive governor, and that one's actually created by Google themselves. That one is based more on human interaction. The interactive governor will take inputs, touch inputs, and then ramp up the CPU clock to the maximum clock. And then by doing that, it will try to provide you the smoothest possible experience, because with the human input, with the touch input, that you'll ramp up the clock to max and allows you to do whatever interaction you need to do. And then right after you finish your touch operation, you'll ramp down to the lowest idle level, then to try to save battery that way. So that's kind of like the basics of the two popular CPU governors out there. Then what I've created, as Chuck mentioned, I've created two of my own. I kind of prefixed them with Intelli Active and Intelli Demand. And as you can see, these two governors are based off the original on-demand and the original interactive governors. What I've done to them is I've added a few more parameters, so that rather than, for example, the interactive, it always jumps to the highest in the original design, and in my version, what it does is you jump to a mid-range clock frequency, and then you'll wait there for a second, or for a few milliseconds, to see if there's additional load for me that requires it to go to maximum. By doing that, it will kind of save the battery, because sometimes you get these phantom loads where you touch something, but you really don't need all that necessary horsepower in order to complete the task. So by ramping up all the way to the max, it kind of drains the battery a little bit. So with the Intelli versions of it, it has like a little mid-range throttle, so that it will go to the mid-range, and then you then sit there for a few milliseconds detecting additional load, and if there's no load, then you go back to idle, and then if there's additional load, then you will ramp up to the max, and that's what makes it a little bit different from the two original governors I had mentioned. I hope that this technical talk is not too complicated for most of the users.
No, you're explaining it very well. So yeah, you're not losing this in ones and zeros. Chuck usually does that, but you're doing great.
I'm pretty good at doing that. But no, I mean, I know for me personally, this is all really, really interesting stuff. So, and I'm sure there's a ton of people out there who've been modding their phones, running your kernels for quite a while, and not really understanding, why is creating your own governor so hard, or why is the fact that you have created your own governor? I mean, to me, it's fairly impressive, to understand the difference, but with the algorithms and the race to idle, and because there's a number of strategies, and I know we've talked about this before, and chime in, is there's the race to idle strategy. There's the do you keep a constant load? Do you jack the CPU all the way up? How do you, what's the best way to do things, to preserve battery life? And or is there somewhere in the middle?
Right. I mean, it's always a struggle, because users will always want the smoothest possible experience, while at the same time they want their phone to last a whole day without charging 2 or 3 times per day. So for me, I try to take the balanced approach, meaning I try to give you good performance, but at the same time, try to preserve the battery as much as possible, because I use the phone all the time, and I don't want to charge my phone 2 to 3 times a day. I mean, I want my phone to last at least a day, if not more. And so to me, battery is supremely important. And so whenever I hack my kernel, that's always the #1 priority in my mind, is that I try to create capabilities and abilities for users to maximize their battery use. But then at the same time, the kernel has a lot of tunable knobs that you could control, and this is where I start to develop my Java application, because originally I was only a kernel hacker, and I created all these kernels, and then users start to ask me, how do I tune your kernel for a particular use? And I get a lot of requests from gamers. They say, your kernel is great. I love it. It has, I can use it for a whole day, and it lasts a whole day. But when I want to play game, it lags. It's slow, or it's not up to my expectation compared to, let's say, stock kernel. And I said, well, at the time I said, well, I'm sorry, you could go in there using Reioux Explorer or using Terminal. You can set these tunables here and there using scripts, and then the user said, well, that's kind of complicated. Could you make it easier for us, for us to tune it? And that's what actually got me the motivation to start, learning the Java language myself. I learned, before that time, I had no idea. I never programmed Java, and I had pretty good fundamentals with the programming language, but I'd never done Java. So I decided, this is something that I should do because people are asking for it. So then I picked up Java on my own, and at night, and I start playing with the Android SDK, and then I start create this. Then after a while, I was able to release my Java apps, and be able to allow the users of my kernel to start tweaking for their usage. And a lot of people say, well, why don't you preset your kernels to a specific profile? Why don't you preset your kernels to maximum performance? Or why don't you preset your kernels to a maximum battery? And I always tell my users, I said, when I release my kernels, I'll try to preserve as much as the original stock experience as possible. Then, either via scripts, or you can use my app, and there are many other similar apps out there that are free. Also, you can use them to then tweak my kernels to your liking, to your specific usage scenario, and then you can do that. Then just want to plug my app a little bit. With my full clock, I created a per app control, which then allows you to tailor your app, each individual app's performance. And this, a lot of users been asking me for this particular feature because they said, I want my phone to last whole day, but I really like this game. Like, for example, Candy Crush or some FPS games, and they want maximum performance for that. But once they're done with the game, they want to go back to maximizing their battery life. So I created this remote application control that allows you to do exactly that. You can go into every single app that you have installed on your phone, and you can then tweak individually the performance of that particular app to whatever you like, and then when you're done with the app, it will restore back to system default, and then that allows you to have kind of best of both worlds.
And that's how I got involved with yours through the Faux app. It's really good. Hit thumbs up, approve, yes, please get it.
Well, we're just talking about apps here, and we know Android L is kind of right around the corner here. So, Paul, I know you've kind of been hacking around with Android L a little bit. What are your thoughts about it from I guess just from a user perspective and then from a developer perspective? Is it going to be easier for you, harder for you?
Well, Android L is very interesting. I mean, I can see where Google is going with this. Personally, I really like the material design philosophy. I think it's very intuitive and it makes sense from a UI's perspective. Then on L, they also have done a few security hardening, which is good and bad. Good news and bad news. The good news of the security hardening is, of course, makes your phones harder to hack, but the opposite side is it makes it more difficult to tweak as well. Lately, the last couple of, actually, this is a good topic that you brought up, because last couple of weeks I've been releasing several betas of my apps to the Play Store, and that's actually were specific to address the L security hardening issue. Many of the tweaks and controls that you can do under KitKat or Jelly Bean or Ice Cream Sandwich have been stripped away, and you have to do it a different way. And I've been updating for the last couple of weeks. I've been updating both of my apps to kind of work with the L, so that you still have the security hardening, and then at the same time I would try to retain as much of the tunable or tweakability of the kernel as possible, so that users going forward to Android L can still have the same experience with my kernels. I mean, from user perspective, I think this is a good direction and good choice that Google has been doing. But it's now from a developer's perspective, it's a little bit difficult. And but luckily, with the help of the community and the and my beta users, I was able to iron out most of the L issues. So that's my thought, at least on Android L.
All right. Well, while we're talking about apps here, we had talked a little bit about before the show about Exposed. I know Exposed is a very, very popular in the modding community. For those of you who aren't aware of what Exposed is basically it's a third-party utility, if you're rooted, that essentially allows you to hook into Java processes on the phone and let you do a ton of things. It's I guess from a technical perspective, I think it's kind of cool how you can hook into the Java processes and do all kinds of stuff. You can change UIs, you can change security, you can change the way things work, the way things act. Now, from an app developer perspective, I think, Paul, you have a little different opinion on it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I love the concept. I mean, what you just summarized is how I feel as well. I mean, from a user's perspective, I love the ability, the capability, the power that you get, from being able to control just about everything that the Android framework provides. Basically, it's kind of like on-the-fly SDK that allows ordinary users to get access to something that Android has that Google has prevented users from getting access to. But from a developer's point of view, I mean, and this is a very interesting statistics, and this is true. 95% of all the force close logs on my app on the Google Play Store are from exposed users. 95% of all the error logs are from exposed users. The reason being is, the concept is great, but the execution, unfortunately, is a little bit lacking, or the third-party modules that people have been writing are not of good quality, and because it gets into such the internals of Android framework that it's very easily to screw up. And like I said, I got some of the weirdest bugs that's reported by exposed users. Now, when I looked at them, it's like, this make absolutely no sense at all from a developer point of view. So at this point, I'm so inundated by them. I just simply, whenever I see exposed, I just ignore them for now, because it's almost undebuggable from my perspective. From an app developer, whenever something like this happens, it's an unfortunate side effect of exposed. But like I said, the concept is great, and I wish Google probably could expose this through their SDK, so the developers of apps could expose this through better through apps themselves rather than through this third-party mod. Because the modules that are out there are not of good quality at this moment.
Hey, not to interrupt, but we do have a question for you, Paul, from Hannah.
Okay.
Says, Paul, what do you have planned for future features?
Oh, well, okay. I've just created a telephony feature for my Sound app that allows you to adjust your in-call volume in real time. That was frequently requested, and I just got around to implement. I actually have quite a few ideas in store in my head. It's just that, unfortunately, I don't know if many of you know, I recently have a baby girl, and she's 7 months and 3 weeks old now, and I'm trying to be a father to her. And I have a day job, so my time for Android, unfortunately, is dwindling, and that's why for a while I haven't been releasing kernels and apps. As many of the users have known that in the past that I will be releasing them almost on a daily basis. But lately, it's kind of getting more and more behind schedule. Now it's more like bi-weekly, maybe monthly now. And it's I want to do more, but I've talked to Chuck many times. I said 24 hours a day is not enough for me.
Right.
You mean you're not going to go buying your yacht like Kush does over there?
Oh no. Well, if I'm full time and I don't have a kid to take care, maybe I try to be like Kush, But the reality is, family first. I love my wife. I love my daughter, and I want to spend time with them, and especially and I noticed myself that in this quick 7 months and 3 weeks, it's gone in a blink of an eye, and if I don't catch this moment, I will probably regret it for a long time. So I want to enjoy and I want to be there for them. But at the same time, I love Android, so I'm not going to abandon Android anytime soon. It's just that the release cycle or the new features will take a little bit longer since since my daughter is here.
And one more question in the Q&A over here. Let me catch up over there. I'm messing around with too many windows. This is from Emilio. It says, Paul, what do you think of the future of Android with Android One? And also, do you have any first thoughts of the Moto 360?
Okay. Okay. So I'll make it brief. I think Android One is a great idea, but I think Motorola has beat them to the punch. The Moto G first generation and the Moto G second generation, which I just got it.
Ah,
today.
show it.
Got the Moto G second generation in hand. For $179, it's an amazing phone. The features, the UI, the pure Google UI is a wonderful experience, and I think the 179, I believe, or at least in my opinion, it's almost to a point of affordability for almost most of the people in the world. I don't know how much lower Android One prices can get to, but I mean, I guess I've seen some of the Indian phone that has announced the Android One support. But when I look at the specs compared to the Moto G, for like $10 or $20 difference, you're getting so much more with Moto G than the Android One program. So at least that's my opinion on that. And then the Moto 360, I love the round watch. I actually have the Samsung Gear Live. I used it, and it's okay. I mean, from an aesthetics point of view, but because of the squareness, I guess it's a little bit uncomfortable on my wrist. Actually, at least that's my opinion. And so I'm excited, and I'm actually my 360 is on the way. I got the tracking number, but hasn't showed up yet. Hopefully, you'll be here Monday, I hope, and then I can play with it and give a better description for it.
Nice. Excellent. Well, I hate to cut everything short. We're having a really good time here, but we are approaching 10 o'clock very quickly on the Eastern Coast. And we've got some stuff to give away. We've got a Moto Skip, Mr. Joe's got over there, and we've also got a $10 Google Play Store gift card to give away. Now, Paul, Fo123, one more question for you. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
9.
9. Congratulations, Hannah Gibbs. Hannah Gibbs, you've won the Moto Skip and also the Play Store gift card. We'll get your information here in just a bit for you.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations. Everybody congratulate Hannah. Very good job. We'll be getting in touch with you soon on that. And not to blow through all this stuff very quick, but Paul and Fo123, I wanted to say thank you very much for joining us on the second episode of Season 2 of The Boat.
Thank you very much.
And if you'll stick with us just for one more second, let me run through everybody here. Chuck, ones and zeros, really quick, plug the next thing that you're working on.
What am I working on? That's actually an excellent question. Chess, for any of you guys who may actually use the chess.com website, you may have heard we've been working on a big V3 rollout, complete redesign of the site. We basically have rewritten the site from scratch, which is almost unheard of in today's world, but the old code just really stunk that bad. So we have essentially rewritten the entire site. We have started the rollout to our premium members, and we're looking to actually have the entire site rolled out to everyone within the next month or two.
Excellent. Fred, what's going on with you at Tech Dissected over there?
Well, we'll be covering the news. We'll be eagerly waiting to see what comes up next week. At the end of this month, I will be attending Interop in New York City. Large IT conference. Unlike CE Week, which was all consumer electronics, this is much more focused on big IT solutions, big storage solutions, big cloud providers. So I'm already starting to get contacted by some of the exhibitors and presenters there, so I'll hopefully be lining up some interesting interviews, and I'll fill you in on that as we get a little closer.
Awesome. Next wave of stuff. Very, very cool. Mr. Joe from Mobile Cup of Joe, what can we expect from you for the next week?
So let's see. I'm on Mobile Cup of Joe. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Mobile Cup of Joe. That's where I'm usually most active. On my channel this week, I've got a review of the OnePlus One coming up and a comparison between the OnePlus One and the LG G3, and a review of the Fire Phone on my channel. So a lot of stuff there. And also for next week's guests, I'll be having on Chris Dierks. He's a store manager from AT&T. He'll be on here on the boat next week, and he'll be talking about the iPhone 6. He'll actually have one on hand. He'll be able to show off to us, and he can talk about kind of what the lines were like in the store he's a manager at, just what the popularity has been like with AT&T. So just kind of some inside look at what the sales have been like so far for the iPhone.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Next few weeks of Boat should be exciting with AT&T and some other things. Tony McAfee, what's going on with you over there, bud, for the next week?
Oh man, well, the next week and everything is just going to be pretty much cleaning up. We've had a mad rush on Swappa lately because I mean, with all these announcements, you don't have a clue how many Note 3s, Note 2s, Motorola X, original Moto X's, Moto G's, and obviously iPhones now have been listed because everybody's jumping ship for the new phone. So usually it's the last generation or the generation before. So if you want to get yourself a cheap iPhone or a cheap Motorola last gen or Samsung phone right now is the time to go over there because people are trying to get rid of them while there's still a little bit of resale value left just to get the most out of them before the new phones are all here in stores. So that's pretty much what life is going to be for me for the next week. But other than that, looking forward to I'm going to be getting a Recon Jet pretty soon, which is a similar cheaper Google Glass. I don't want to say Glass clone because I'm sure it doesn't even do similar things to what Glass does, but I'm looking forward to testing that out. But other than that, nothing really much going on for me right now.
just those few little things, right?
Yeah, just a couple.
Just a couple. Well, Paul, once again, Fo123, thank you so much for sharing a little insight in kernel development and being the guest over here. On behalf of Chuck, Fred, Joe, and Tony, thank you all the viewers that tuned in. If you caught us live or if you're catching us during the week on YouTube, thanks a bunch for tuning in. Be sure to leave your comments down below. If you've got other questions for Fo123 or any of the guys here, go ahead and leave your comments down there. We check those things out. We'll try to get back with you with an answer on that as soon as we can. But that's it for this week's episode of The Boat. That's about all we've got for you. Congratulations, Hannah, on winning your Moto Skip and Play Store gift card. Thank you so much, everybody else, for watching. You guys have a great week. Paul, one more thing. This is how we're going out every episode. You've been on the boat long enough. You got to give me one good woo-woo. Woo-woo. All right. Thanks a bunch. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern on the boat with AT&T.
See you, everybody.
See ya.